You're listening to Captain John Doe, real aviation stories told anonymously. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Captain John Doe podcast. I am your host, Kevin.
And I'm Mindy. Welcome back. Happy late Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a wonderful holiday break to all of our American listeners.
Yeah, that's a good point. I saw this funny meme about Canadians celebrating Thanksgiving, and they had all this turkey out, and they're like, Happy Thursday, everybody. Well, we are really full. We had a pretty unique Thanksgiving.
We had a Friendsgiving.
Yeah. We made a little trip over to the LA area in Mojo this past week to see some of our good friends, Josh and Chelsea. You might know them from Aviation 101.
Right. We only had about 2.5 days off of work, so it wasn't quite long enough for us to fly back home to Florida and see family and do the holiday back home, which I wish we could have. But we did the second best thing, which was a little weekend warrior adventure. We took off on Thanksgiving morning, flew about an hour and a half past Big Bear Mountain, some of the ski slopes, beautiful scenic flight in Mojo, our Cessna 182, and then landed in Torrance, California, where we were greeted by Josh and Chelsea.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, really grateful for them hosting us. We ended up getting a hotel as they picked us up because most of you guys know when you're flying little single engine pistons, you try not to plan your stay.
It's almost bad luck.
It's just bad luck. So we got the hotel. Josh was like, all right, so where are you guys staying? Oh, we don't know.
Do you know how much money I've lost by pre-booking hotels?
All of it.
You know what I do? The only schedule planning I do ahead of time is I do look at hotels. I want to make sure that there's not a huge conference in town where everything's sold out. I don't want to show up and not have options. So as long as there's several hotels in the area I want to stay, I never book it until I am physically in that city, because with aviation, things change so quick. We could have showed up to the airport and had a flat tire on the plane or something. And it's Thanksgiving. Who are we going to get parts from? And
what if there's no ramp space? Remember, we try to call every single number on Garmin Pilot. Every single number. No one answered.
Right. So I never book ahead, because guess who's not going to give you your money back when you say you can't arrive? The freaking hotels. They are tough to negotiate with to get your money back.
Yeah. So we ended up getting a hotel, making the whole trip work. A couple of the bigger highlights is for Thanksgiving dinner, we went up into the foothills over in Topanga
Canyon,
which was really awesome. We're from Florida. You guys know that, who've been following us. Like, that's all new territory for us. So like, we're up in the little foothills on the beach having this awesome Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm just like, where are we?
It was gorgeous. And then the biggest highlight of the trip was a totally unexpected flight in a Sling high wing aircraft. We had visited the Sling, what do we call it? Builders factory?
Yeah. The U.S. headquarters for Sling.
Yeah, but specifically, so they have a flight school there called Sling Academy, which had over 80 airplanes, I think Chelsea said.
Yeah.
So huge. It was really impressive, by the way. So if you're looking for a flight school, maybe look into something like that.
And by the way, since we're talking about Sling, they're pretty much all light sport aircraft. They're based out of South Africa in Johannesburg, but their North American office is in Torrance, California, which they happen to do a ton of flight training and builder assists on their new aircraft.
Right. So they have a bunch of kit planes where the purchasers can go in and help with the build of their aircraft. In fact, it's required if you do that. Josh and Chelsea are taking it to a new level. You only are required to go a certain amount of days and do a certain amount of things. It's pretty low key. They are doing as much as possible. They are like the opposite of normal customers.
So follow along on their build process if you guys aren't already. But what Mindy's getting to is the day we were leaving, the owner of Sling handed Josh the keys to one of their high wings and said, go give Mindy and Kevin a demo.
Yeah.
Which was pretty awesome.
All four of us loaded up and we headed on a crazy long 24 miles.
24 mile long.
To Catalina Island, which has been on my bucket list forever. I've always wanted to land there. I have flown over it several times, but I have never had the chance to go in and land. And I didn't want to get too excited about it when we said that's what we were going to do because there's not weather reporting there. So we didn't know if it would be totally socked in by clouds or what. And that's really common out there. So we took off and there was a lot of clouds over the ocean. I was like, man, there's no way we're getting in. And there's a further island that does have weather on it and it was reporting IFR. So I was like, I didn't want to get my hopes up. But we took off and we got over the ocean and we saw it right away. Like we could see clouds around it. And then once we got closer, we could see the runway. And very fittingly, they call it the airport in the sky. And that's exactly what we arrived to. The runway is on top of the island and it's surrounded by clouds that are lower than the runway.
It was awesome. And Josh was awesome to let me fly. And you were awesome to let me fly as well. So I got to fly us there and back and experience the whole overwater landing at the airport in the sky. We hopped out. We walked around the property for a little bit. It was a quick turn, but highly, highly recommend.
Well, this is, I mean, if you think about pilots' bucket list airports, this is top 5 for pretty much anyone.
What's your number one? I know what it is already. We've already done it.
My number one?
Yeah. Now knowing. What's your number one? Come on.
Oh, I don't know what you're thinking of. I'm totally blank. I can't even think of a singular airport.
What have we done 2 years ago?
Oshkosh?
No. No, Oshkosh is definitely
That's
a bucket list
top
item.
5 bucket list item.
Number one.
I'm so scared. I don't know.
Somebody's seen this 19 million times on your Instagram.
Oh, Milford Sound.
Milford Sound in New Zealand. Number one, hands down. No negotiating.
Agreed.
But Catalina, Oshkosh.
What else? Let's fill out the 5. What's a number 4 and 5?
I think Cedar Key in Florida is a big one for people.
Yes, because it's one of the shortest, I think it's the shortest paved public runway in Florida. I don't know if it meets any other stats, countrywide. I think it's 2,300 feet. So it's shorter, but it's right on the coast. It's kind of on islands as well.
Sedona.
That's a top one. You've been there. I've not been there yet.
And then I feel like let's put some jet people in there.
No, Leadville.
Okay.
Leadville, Colorado is the highest public paved airport that you can land at. It's almost at 10,000 feet in the air.
Why don't you guys send some messages to the Captain John Doe podcast and we'll make a little thing saying like top 5 general aviation airports.
What were you going to say for jets?
Well, I was thinking
what about that French one?
Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I can't go outside of our own personal scope. There's probably so many airports.
And Milford, New Zealand is in your personal scope.
We've done it. So like to me, that's number one no matter what. But yeah, Coeur d'Alene and the Swiss Alps has to probably be up there. But
St. Martin.
Not St. Martin, Bart's.
Sorry, Bart's.
St. Bart's. Yeah. But the other airport, not St. Bart's. So I can't remember it. But anyways, obviously Aspen, Tahoe, like those airports that are up in the higher elevations.
Telluride.
Telluride.
We've both been there.
Telluride is insane.
It's pretty wicked.
That is not a place that single engine pistons should go unless it's perfect out.
And guess what I did?
Single engine piston.
I flew single engine piston into Telluride, and it was gorgeous out, to be fair. But this runway, if you're not familiar with Telluride, the runway there is on a plateau, and the end of the runway has a very steep drop off. I forget how far it is, like thousands of feet, probably.
That grass strip plateau in Georgia that we took Dreamsicle at was pretty fun.
Hogjow.
Probably not going to find that one on the sectional.
Yeah, that one was a private strip too, and that one was tough. That was one of my toughest tailwheel landings I've ever had. Anyway, all that to say that Catalina Island, top of your bucket list if you're an aviator. There's a restaurant there that was popping off when we were there. So anyways, huge shout out to Josh and Chelsea, friends of the pod.
So speaking of going over water, if you guys have any stories like that of crossing the Pacific or crossing the Atlantic or anything, crossing Lake Michigan, we'd love to hear it. We read about all these stories online. I'd like to get you guys to send them in. That way we can talk about it because I'm a nerd just like you guys.
Yeah.
I want to listen. I want to hear them. I want to hear it from firsthand experience because this is so cool. I was talking about, I was flying a customer to Amarillo the other day, and we were chatting about how Lone Mountain, the brokerage you work with, has a facility in London, and they ferry planes across the Atlantic all the time. SR-22s I'm talking about. And just the idea of ferrying or flying single engine pistons across the water is crazy, and I would love to hear it.
Write it in. Let us know. I'm sure there's some pretty scary stories that you guys can tell about oceanic crossings. Well, as always, we'd be remiss if we didn't tell you guys to please subscribe to the podcast. That way you don't miss an episode. Leave a review and a rating. And as we're coming into the holiday season, we have some exciting news. We have some Captain John Doe merch. And no, we're not trying to sell it to you right now. It is not for sale. I'm telling you about it.
Weird thing to say. Not for sale. But if you want to pay for it, I mean.
No, there's no way to pay for it. I literally don't have a shop set up, so don't say that. Well, we want to encourage you guys to subscribe and to leave reviews. That is a free way you can support us, and hope that you would. And I made this merch that way we can send it out to some of our subscribers, some of our listeners. You guys are the reason why this works. You guys send in the stories. You make this happen. So we want to reward you guys. What we're going to do is, if you guys leave a review on our podcast, all you need to do is send a screenshot of it to the Captain John Doe Instagram. Just take a screenshot on your phone, send it on over. It's at Captain John Doe Podcast on Instagram. And we're going to start picking out some random winners to send merch to. So leave a review, send it on over. And if you win, we will contact you, and then we will also announce it here on the podcast. So start leaving your reviews. We're excited to read them. And speaking of reading reviews, I have a couple ready for you. From Rosscoin PNW, 5 stars. This is such a fun but also thoughtful and informative aviation podcast. That's what we're going for. We want it to be fun but informative. Here's the bottom one for you, Kevs.
All right. This is from R. McKnight 7. Another great fun episode. I always knew there was a secret reset button in the aft commode.
What? Wait, start over?
No. I can't even get through this.
Wait,
this is the one you had me read? This is great.
I haven't pre-read any of them. It was just the next one up. Wait, start over.
All right. I'm going to start it over, but we're not cutting that out. Another great fun episode. I always knew there was a secret reset button in the aft commode. And Kevin, I left a great career at age 29 to pursue another career that I knew would take at least 7 years of training. You'll make a great airline captain. Keep believing in yourself, and it'll be worth it.
Aw.
Thanks. And for those of you that don't know what a commode is, it's a latrine. For those of you who don't know what a latrine is, it's a bathroom.
Wait, what does he mean that there was a what?
We must have shared.
What story are we talking about?
Story about the commode.
Yeah, that's really funny. Well, some people that don't know the podcast, and I'm describing it to them that I'm describing to them sometimes, they're like, "Oh, what kind of stories do you get?" I'm like, honestly, we get a lot of toilet stories.
A lot of toilet stories, a lot of drug stories. Recently, sugar daddy stories.
Yeah, it's getting promiscuous.
I like that. So keep them coming. I know last episode we talked about Reddit. I did set that up. To be fair, I don't know what I'm doing. So if you guys are on Reddit, go subscribe.
I can confirm Kevin doesn't know what he's doing.
As I get a little bit more proficient in the Reddit world, there'll be more things. But we want it to be used as another source of you guys to kind of join a community.
Submit your stories.
Light it up with your stories.
Yeah, and we know that you guys want to get in on it too, of making your comments about these stories, and that would be a way to do it. That way, when people submit the stories, eventually on the podcast, not only can we, me and you, Kevin, respond and react to the stories, but then we can read other listeners' comments and feedback.
That sounds like a great idea. So you guys help me out. Get on it. Start writing things. And I think we'll go from there. So let's get it kicked off, Schmin. I want to go ahead and read our first one.
Yeah, this is really just a sentence, but someone submitted it, and I made a vow that we're not going to skip over anything. There's a lot of questions to be had about this, but they said, I was checking out an Air Force captain in a T-34. He was an instructor in T-38s. Wasn't used to the rudder, and he put us in a spin doing accelerated stalls.
It's crazy how many of these stories we can get. Like, it's crazy. No matter your experience, no matter what airplanes you fly.
Don't trust anybody.
We all can do it. I mean, we all can do it.
Right. Well, some more details are needed here. So just wanted to read that because I'm not skipping over submissions. But here's my main story for today. Should I read the title of it?
Sure.
Because I read the title of it and I still didn't know where it was going. So I'm going to read the title of it. The O320 has how many grams of sodium? Like a lot of your listeners, our dads are cooler than the rest. For the sole reason they are the ones that took us flying for the first time and all through our childhood. What I remember the most of my elementary years was spending a couple nights of the week at the little airport surrounded by corn. My dad helped start a flying club, and I got to fly several planes from 150s, Cardinals, but my favorite was a 46 Champ. And the corner of the hangar were 4 phone books taped together that acted as a booster seat for me and my little brother. Weekly meetings meant my brother and I ran around the airport in cornfields. Other than flying, the best part was Dad letting us drive the 2 miles from the highway to the airport. It was a great childhood. I remember all the old guys telling stories. Most I was too young to hear. So fast forward 20 years. My dad and I kept flying, but now it was faster in a Commander 114 that he was partners in. After a few years, his aging partner decided it was time to give up his wings. So reluctantly, the plane was sold. 3 kids in college didn't help. So fast forward a few more years, my parents were looking at a home in an air park. My dad struck up a conversation with a potential neighbor and got a tour of his place and his airplanes. Also aging himself, he was in the early stages of selling his 1973 Cessna 172. It was rough and really needed an update. However, it had just over 100 hours since overhaul. A few months down the road, the guy called my dad and said, "You need to buy my airplane." My dad wasn't looking for a 172, but he pushed again and said, "You need to buy my airplane." This was pre-COVID pricing, and my dad made a killer deal. But first, it needed a new radio and a couple of other things. This worked out in my favor 1,000%. I had a young family and just a few bucks. So with the family discount, I was able to start my training. About 10 hours in, my dad and I were doing an oil change. While the cowling was off and the oil was draining, I looked over the engine to become more familiar with it. My eyes followed the wires, fuel lines, and scat tubing. That's when I learned something that the POH doesn't talk about. The O320 has 350 milligrams of sodium. I started laughing, and my dad from the other side of the hangar says, "What's so funny?" I asked, "Did you know that our engine has 350 milligrams of sodium?" Dad walked over and I showed him where the previous owner had spliced 2 pieces of scat tubing with a can of green beans. He didn't even take the wrapper off. The scary part to all of this was the airplane had since had 3 annuals from a reliable shop. Reliable was literally in the name. Thank you, Mindy and Kevin, for such a fun podcast. Also, I would totally fangirl out if I saw either of you at the airport, and I'm a 41-year-old dude. Thanks again.
We'd fangirl out at seeing you too, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really happy that we all now know that the O320 engine has sodium in it.
That's hilarious.
You read that title, I was like, where's this going?
I thought the same thing. I read the title, and then when I was reading the story before recording, I was like, where could this be going?
It had me for a second at the beginning. So there's sodium in the engine?
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, this one says the wrapper of green beans.
It's kind of a can connecting all this stuff together.
That surprises me zero, that
Zero.
buying an old airplane from an old man out of an air park results in a green bean engine. That just that was
Rain bean?
such a sim moment. Yeah, do you know what I'm about to say?
I do. Go ahead.
We lived at an air park, and our neighbor's airplane was named Green Bean.
And they part together all kinds of things, didn't they?
Yeah. Wait, that's hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, this story is like as old as time for us. We've told our electrical story a lot of times, but the reason we had to change our starter is because way back when we had a John Deere tractor starter solenoid in our engine. And that was really normal. That's what it was, because when these planes first came out, the FAA did not have their regulations. You did not need certified parts. So putting in a green bean can, to your normal everyday CFI in today's world might be, the sky's falling, but not even 20 years ago, that was probably pretty common.
Is that true?
What?
It wasn't regulated?
Certified parts?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't even know that.
That's why we had a John Deere tractor. So.
I thought we had a John Deere tractor part just because the guy was a country guy, just lived by his own rules. I can't
remember when the FAA started regulating all that, but it was not in 1957. We're not going to do a history lesson today. I know more about animals and biology than the history of the FAA. But this is something that goes hand in hand. And I think in today's world, let's equate it towards the experimental thing. We were just with Josh and Chelsea, and they were talking about why experimental is so awesome and the ability it lets you go down to the local auto parts store and
experimental aircraft. That's
correct.
Yes, because there's a different. So for anyone who doesn't know, there's certified planes and then there's experimental planes, and they fall under vastly different rules.
Vastly. Not no rules, but, in essence, no rules, because let's just put it real simple. A spark plug isn't every single machine there is. You go to the Napa Valley, not Napa Valley, but the Napa Auto Parts store.
To the winery.
And you buy a spark plug for $4. Go on Aircraft Spruce and look it up. I bet it's somewhere in the $40 range, and they're the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating, to be quite honest. It's like literally made at it's the same part, just one is certified for aircraft. So, not through any design differences, just because the FAA said, yeah, this is approved, and then you have to buy it
100% markup, period.
More than 100%.
So Mindy and I are starting to do something similar as this guy and start doing more preventive maintenance on our own.
I love that you just said Mindy and I. That's hilarious.
You guys all know what happens when you say your vows at the altar to your wife. That means you're a team. So regardless if I participate or not, it's we.
You cannot
you or I.
be taking credit for my work right now. That's hilarious. Continue on.
We did an oil change the other day.
Oh, yeah. Tell people all the steps on how you do it, Kevin.
Here's what happens. You go to work all day. You go to the hangar after work, and the oil change was done.
Yeah.
That's the steps. And your beautiful wife had done it already.
Yeah. Good for you. Well, that was my first time ever doing the oil change on our airplane.
Really by yourself.
Well,
obviously with oversight, but
I had a lot of help from our hangar neighbor, who also has a 1957 182. It's an identical airplane and model to ours. Shout out Ryan. I don't know if he listens. I have no idea. But if he does, hello. And thank you so much for guiding me through my first oil change. I feel embarrassed that I've never done my own oil change. I don't want to say how easy it was. It was fairly easy. I don't want to devalue the help that I had, though, because he made it very easy on me.
Because you learned, like you were being taught. So like now we understand we don't have an oil filter. For all you guys at home, we have a oil screen. It is much different than any modern.
Yeah, but not hard. I've never been a part of an oil change on an airplane before. I've been a part of oil changes. We've had boats and four-wheelers and a bunch of other things, but I've never been a part of it on the airplane. And so I was shown the ropes, and it went great. And that was before our flight to and from California, so I can confidently say that everything held together.
It did. It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Confidently.
Yeah. So easy there on taking credit for it. Woof.
Yeah. Well, good thing we didn't find any sodium.
Also, you know what I really loved about this story?
What?
Is sometimes I get jealous about people who grew up in aviation because I feel like they had such a leg up over people like me and you who didn't discover it until later in life. I fell into it pretty randomly at 18 when I started college. You, same thing. You fell into it.
Because of you.
Because of me in college, but both of us didn't have any family members in aviation. We don't have any background in aviation. So it was kind of hard to learn the ropes and know. I don't even know. It was hard to know what to know. Like, it was.
I think that's the best way to describe it. What do you need to know, and how are you going to trust somebody to guide you?
So I find myself getting jealous sometimes of people who grew up in it that just have so much knowledge about the industry and how things work and how to do oil changes on their own airplane. You know, I feel stupid sitting here at 31 not knowing how to do an oil change on a plane, which sounds crazy. Because I look over and my peers are like, yeah, I've been doing oil changes on airplanes since I was 12 or 8, you know. But what I love about this story is this person is obviously so grateful for their experience growing up and having a childhood in aviation, and clearly knows that they had it so good. And I think that's pretty cool because we both didn't have that. So it's really nice to see someone look back on it and be like, that was the best. I grew up at an airport. Like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, we can go back and forth on the benefit there, but I'd like to think that there's something to be said about the path we've taken, because our appreciation is unmatched. Not to take anything away from anyone out there that's parents flew.
We all had to work just as hard to get where we are.
I'm not sitting
no one
here
gets
taking
given
away.
a license.
But to have our experience where our parents barely flew on a commercial airliner to where we are now in our careers, I really appreciate like how much effort went into it.
What's like every day for me is a surprise, because I'm not even living out my dreams because I didn't know the things that we do ever existed. When I was little, I could literally never dream of flying to Catalina yesterday.
Well, you said it when we were there the other day. Like, can you imagine that our little airplane's in California? No, because it wasn't a dream.
Well, then, yeah, even rewind. Can you, like, when did you ever dream of owning an airplane when you were little? I never did. And not because I didn't think it was possible. It was never a thought. I never grew up around that stuff. So yeah, it's interesting to see the perspective that different people in the industry bring. But no doubt that people who grew up in it have such a leg up. They have so much knowledge to share. And I love that people that do it right, that have the resources and the knowledge and are sharing it and are bringing the legacy forward. There's an appreciation.
The other thing is I want to see it too, because I fly with a lot of people now, and you know, so many of these owners that I'm flying with, they're like, oh, my kids don't want to fly, or my wife doesn't want to fly. But then, so on this story, I love to hear that. Like,
yeah,
you can't force someone to want to do it, but like finding someone who like appreciates what their parents did to work hard to get an airplane, and then taking advantage of it, because take advantage of it. If you're sitting there and you're in that situation, I'm telling you now, we're 31 and 33 years old. Take advantage of it early.
That's a great point. So many people I sell airplanes to, I ask if their kids are in aviation, wanting to learn to fly, are already pilots. And I would say 9 times out of 10, they say no. They have no interest.
Yeah.
I think if we had a kid and they were interested at all, I would be so sad. This is our whole world. And for everyone that's in aviation, that's all they think about. You go to bed dreaming about your last landing. Like,
let's be fair. If we have a child, they are going to have the same.
You think so?
They will.
No, I don't think it's true. I come across so many, even couples where they're both in aviation and their kids are not into it at all. And that's scary.
All right. Well, let's get off the kids subject.
Please.
All right. I'm going to tell my story. This one's a little bit longer, but as we said previously, 1, we don't skip anything. 2, I like the story a lot.
I love a long story. Yeah. What are podcasts for?
This one has more to do with instructors. I mean, there's so many stories we're getting submitted that have to do with some interesting training. So it starts, the title, Instructors Make All the Difference. I've been interested in airplanes and flying for as long as I can remember. As a kid in the 1970s, I would drive my motorcycle on back roads to our small local airport so I could watch airplanes take off and land, or help the A&Ps work on various planes, or just sweep the hangar. It wasn't until the mid to late 1990s that I would be in a position to be able to take lessons. At the time, I was living in the Milwaukee area. I spoke with the chief instructor at a flight school based out of Waukesha County.
I've been there.
I've been there too. He gave me a tour and explained they have several options and instructors for me to work with. In particular, they had the option of taking lessons in a beautiful red Citabria. I liked the idea of flying a tailwheel, and it was fairly economical to rent and fly. He also explained that I had the option of doing most of the groundwork on my own, and as long as I passed the written exam, the charge for the ground portion of my lessons would be minimal. The only problem with the Citabria was that they only had one CFI who would teach in it, but his schedule seemed to be pretty open, so I decided to enroll. The first few lessons were fantastic. My CFI, we'll call him Kyle, not his real name, he said, was young, probably in his early 20s. His instructing style was very hands-off, and he pushed me hard to do everything myself. He rarely or never demonstrated a maneuver, but would rather just tell me what to do and then let me figure it out how to solve the problem. As an example, to introduce me to stalls, he would have me pull the power and keep the nose up until the plane quit flying. Then he would shout, "Don't let that wing drop," or "Keep it straight," or my favorite, "If you spin this thing, we're going to die."
Wait, that's not true. It is a Tabria.
No, it's not. I'd read so much and studied my ground school material enough that I had a pretty good idea of what was going to go on and what to do. But it was still a bit nerve-wracking until we had practiced it a few times. Each time we flew, he would ask several times when I was going to book the next lesson and pushed hard to get in the air as often as possible. I started flying in the evenings after work and as often as I could on the weekends. As I progressed, we started working more and more on landings. We would either fly to a rural airport south of Waukesha or a small airport on the north side of Milwaukee to practice in the grass, which is ideal for a new tailwheel pilot. As I got closer to solo, he pushed harder to book the next flight and wanted me in the air as often as possible. One day I had booked a flight following work. It was just after lunch when I checked the weather forecast and learned there was a thunderstorm predicted for the early evening hours. I called the school to cancel my lesson, and it was my instructor who answered the phone. I told him about the forecast and was going to reschedule, but he disagreed. "We've got plenty of time to get some landings in," he said. "We got to get you signed off, and you're right there. You're so close. You'll be on your own by next weekend." Excited by the prospect of flying solo, I agreed. As I drove towards the airport, I could see the sky toward the west was dark, but it did seem like it was quite a ways off. Kyle had already had the little red bird out and ready to go when I arrived. As I started to do the pre-flight, he said, "I've been flying this afternoon. You can skip it." A few minutes later, we were inside and the motor was running. Kyle said, "Let's head north to Timmerman. We can get in a few landings there, and I want to see if that one girl's at the FBO." I asked, "The hot one?" "Damn right," Kyle said. As we lifted off the 3.6 and started climbing out, I noticed we had limited fuel, something I should have learned on my pre-flight. As I got a better view of the sky to the west and was taken aback by the incredible ominous black frontal wall that ran almost perfectly north-south and had a prominent white shelf cloud along the lower edge, I said, "Holy shit, maybe we should rethink this." Kyle said, "What? No way. That's still hours away. We got plenty of time." After a couple laps in the pattern at Timmerman, it was getting noticeably darker and the sky had an eerie green appearance as the wall was getting closer and closer. It occurred to me that if this storm catches up to us, we don't have an out. Milwaukee's on the western shore of Lake Michigan, and we'd have to outrun the storm 85 miles across to the lake to the eastern side. Even if we could outrun the storm, I didn't think we had enough fuel. I said, "I don't like this. We need to go back." He said, "Nah, plenty of time. Besides, I need to drop by the FBO." I said, "If we land again, we're going to tie down it because we don't have time to get back before the storm gets here." He scoffed and said, "It just looks close because it's big. Trust me, we have plenty of time." I thought about it for a second or two and threw some of his own words back at him. "My call as a pilot. We're going back." I turned the airplane to the south. The flight back was oddly quiet. Kyle wasn't saying anything because he was pissed. The air was glassy smooth, yet the whole time we could see flashes of lightning behind the towering black wall to our right. A few minutes later, Tower cleared us for a right downwind for 3-6 and told us to expedite due to weather. As I started to set up for landing, I noticed the air begin to change. A few light bumps were followed by mild gusts out of the west, and as I added my first notch of flaps, I could hear thunder over the sound of the engine in my headphones. I said, "Maybe you should take this one, Kyle." "What? Are you kidding me?" "You got this, just like every other one we've done the last couple of weeks," Kyle said. As we turned right base, we were facing a dark monstrosity with rapid internal flashes of lightning. Underneath, I could see rain just west of the field, obscuring everything beyond a few blocks to the west. On short final, the gust front hit us. The little Citabria was slammed hard to the right. In a matter of seconds, we were aligned with the Charlie taxiway instead of the 3-6 center line. I crabbed left so hard, I was looking at the numbers for the runway through the side window of the little craft. I said, "Your airplane." He said, "No way. Are you kidding me? You don't learn if you don't go." "You got it. You got this." I wasn't thinking, but just reacting. Everything seemed to be happening so fast. I wasn't sure what to do, or even if I could. I didn't respond, but dropped the left wing, added power, dropped towards the numbers, and again pleaded, "Your airplane." Kyle shouted back at me, "Nope, fuck you, fly it." 30 years later, and I sit here and I write this, I still have no idea how we got that airplane on the ground, let alone kept it in one piece. I don't know if I landed it or Kyle did or if he helped me. I do remember him yelling and cheering, "What a fucking stud. You're the man," and laughing as he slapped me on the back as we taxied to the hangar. As we jumped out, the rain pummeled us, and just as we pushed the airplane inside, hail began. I grabbed my things and walked through the rain and hail to my truck. As I sat in my truck, I thought about what just happened. I thought about my 2 young kids at home. I put the keys in the ignition and drove away. I never called. I never asked for a refund of the money I had on my account. I never returned Kyle's calls. In fact, I never got in a small airplane again for 20 years. After my children were grown and I decided to try again, I found an outstanding career instructor whose passion is teaching. Today I have 3 airplanes, several ratings and endorsements, and I fly as often as I can, making up for lost times. I also have a healthy respect for thunderstorms. Instructors make all the difference.
Wow. I had so many mixed emotions throughout that entire storyline. Kyle, at first I was like, man, Kyle really sucks. And then I was like, Kyle is just a kid. And then I was like, no, he actually sucks. And then I was like, no, he's just a kid. And now I don't know if he was just a sucky kid or what. Obviously, he has a lot of tendencies of a young instructor, a reckless instructor, a dangerous instructor. But he was also really encouraging and like supportive. So I have so many mixed emotions. What do you think?
I got some chills reading it because there's way too many NTASB reports about stuff like this. You know, we had a recent one a year or 2 ago where an instructor sent him and the student through a thunderstorm and they didn't make it out.
Right.
So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and preach on how to know if you got a good instructor, but somebody that is pressuring you into flying typically has a tendency of not wanting the right things. So an example from my point of view, I'm sitting here doing this podcast right now with about 1,100 hours. I have a job offer from PSA Airlines. When I know when I hit 1,500, I will get my airline job and move on. So I have that in one bucket. But every single time I show up to the airport, I have to forget that bucket at the door and give all my attention to that student because that student is paying for my time. Number 2, that student is paying for my safety aspect because they are a student. Just how you were in this story, you were a student who hadn't soloed yet and you had to make the decision to turn around.
That's unacceptable. I I wish that was a test from the instructor, because that would have been a great test.
Yes.
But he wasn't testing him.
I have had a situation where the student said your airplane, but it wasn't in the landing phase.
But also, if you're in landing phase with a student pilot pre-solo that says your airplane, I do believe that you, as the instructor, obviously you have to read each situation. Maybe there's some times where you push your students, but a pre-solo student that's scared and short final says your airplane, maybe you should just take it over.
Yeah, like my point is, when the one time that I had this like happen, I mean it's happened more, but like a scenario where the student literally said you should take this landing, not to do a long story, but the flaps were failing, so he didn't want to do a no flap landing. And we had about 20 minutes before landing. So we briefed it over and over again. And I reassured him, and we went through the checklist and through the process. And I said, you need to do this. But at the same token, I told him, I'm not going to be sitting back. Like, I'm going to be there with you for protection, because that's my job.
Right.
And it reassured him, and it was fine.
Yeah. So this guy, Kyle, though, wasn't doing a lot of instructing or briefing. He even mentions in the story that he never demonstrated maneuvers. He would just kind of tell him what to do, and just seemed like he was just sitting there clocking hours, which is what I think you were trying to get to earlier.
Yes.
And that's a problem. A tale as long as time about CFIs, that it's so hard to find a trustworthy CFI that is there for the right reasons. Obviously, I'd say 99% of CFIs are there to build time, you included. But like you said, you can't look at each day as time building. You're there to instruct. Like, you signed up for this job to teach people how to safely fly airplanes. A byproduct of that is building time.
Yes.
That's not the goal of the day. You know, and that's what it seems like this guy's doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people experience this at flight school. So if you're in that, find a new instructor. Do not worry about their feelings. They don't worry about yours, and they're not worrying about you and your money. They're really caring about themselves. So I know that's so much easier said than done, but I had an instructor that I really did not get along with when I was in college during my private. And we just had personality differences, you could say. He was always so condescending to me, and if I didn't know an answer, he would literally laugh at me in my face. I ended up bringing it to the school. They changed my instructor. They even refunded me for some of my flights after some of the things I told them, after what I said that he said to me. So just, you got to look out for yourself, because flight school is expensive, and there's just so much on the line with this. And you see that with this story, that this crappy CFI had such an impression on this person that they didn't fly again. They didn't finish their license and didn't fly again for 20 years.
Ah, that's such a good point. I was going to go back onto the customer side of things, but this could be more towards an instructor side of things, is how much impact you have on your students.
Yeah, I wish this guy, Kyle, knew how much he ruined a good thing for someone by acting like that.
To the point where he didn't even ask for a refund of his money that he put on file at the school.
Because he never wanted to call back again, because he had such a terrifying experience knowing that his safety was not priority. How would you feel, like he said, getting in his truck, driving away in the hail, knowing that he was only on the ground safe because of his own decision, and he's a student pilot?
Safety is literally the only thing that matters. So my flight today of a new student and our first landing, she's like, damn, we cratered it in. And I looked at her and I said, where did you get that from, first of all? Because like, this brand new student. And I was like, but the landing was safe. Because that to me is the only thing that matters, is safety. Real quick back on what you said earlier. I see this online a lot about later in life, not like old, but like people who aren't flying for a career.
As a student?
Yeah, student pilots that are not doing it as a career. So maybe
just
hobbyists.
Okay.
And they'll be getting all this advice online about finding a career instructor. I would be more hesitant to put that in your brain, because number one, what Mindy was saying earlier, every instructor, for the most part, is building time. You need to understand that that is a byproduct, like you said, 100% of the time. And the age of the instructor, in my personal experience, does not dictate whether or not it's good or bad instruction.
Correct.
I honestly have the opinion that recency is more important than just general overall age when we're learning how to fly. Now, when we're learning how to do long cross countries and do specific missions, now that separates. Does that make sense? So like for you, I'll use you as an example. You trained me how to fly. We also had help from other instructors. Your experience and your knowledge is tenfold of my instructors, which you guys might listen to the podcast. I love you. This is not a knock. It's just reality, right? You're a multi-type rated pilot with thousands and thousands of hours. But what they did is they put me in the traffic pattern and ripped pattern. What you did is taught me how to be a pilot and go cross country and flight plan.
I think that there's a place for both types of instructors in everyone's life, and just how you had that. I will pat myself on the back that I created the perfect storm for you. I gave you all your baseline knowledge. I helped you through all your ground school stuff because I'm really good at bookwork things and teaching groundwork stuff. And most instructors don't want to do that. So I took that off their plate. I taught you how to do real cross countries, fly through real weather, how to be a real pilot. And they taught you how to check the boxes to get your license, which I don't know that. Yep. And they don't know what I taught you.
And that's the point I think I'm trying to get to, is that box checking is as important as what you taught me, because you need both.
So here's the perfect storm on what, if you're trying to learn or you're trying to get your license. If you have the ability, I would interview some instructors. Most of the time you're going to be assigned to one. If you get along, great. If not, do not be hesitant to change instructors. Oh my God, it's your money. Please fire them. It doesn't have to be a big fallout. You don't have to say that. You could say, hey, I think that my personality vibes with this other type of person better.
A good instructor should tell you that day one.
And you don't need to change schools. Don't be embarrassed that you switched instructors. You don't have to uproot your whole flight school life. Just change instructors. It's not a big deal. They will get over it. They're all adults.
Oh.
But the perfect storm for you as someone who wants to fly their own personal airplane, especially, and isn't going to the airlines, is to have a really great, young, energetic instructor that has availability, that's going to fly with you when you can fly, who knows how to check all those boxes. And then once you get your license, it would be awesome if you then found that, quote, career instructor. That's that perfect guy or girl that is retired from the airlines and they didn't want to give up flying, so now they're instructing. Because normally that's what you see online, is people are like, I don't want some young instructor that's building time. I want someone who had a real career that's teaching now. They're going to teach what I taught, which is not how to get your license. It's how to save your life. It's how to be a real pilot. It's how to actually go across the country in a small airplane. That's very valuable information, but that's not what's needed for a check ride.
No, that 21-year-old is going to teach you how to do power off 180s. They're going to teach you how to do Chandels. You know, they're going to teach you how to study.
Passing a check ride and becoming a good pilot are two different things, and those could be two different instructors.
100%. I highly, highly, highly recommend what Mindy said, is 2 instructors is needed. Now, when do you get the second one is up to you. But yeah, that 21-year-old is by far, in my opinion, I see it now. I'm 33. The guys that I work with that are super young are just screaming people towards check rides.
Yeah.
Because they are so fresh. It's all they know. All they know. They know how to be safe, and they know how to freaking take off and land an airplane.
Well, you could look at it as, you know, there's instructors that teach you to get your license, and then there's mentors who teach you how to be a pilot.
And the thing is I find myself reflecting as more of a mentor. And what it appears is it takes me a little bit more time to get students ready. And I am self-aware of that. So part of my training is I will send my students to these younger guys and send them a couple times, like once or twice a month. And it really, really helps out. So that's another piece of advice, free advice, is if you're flying with the same person every single day, fly with somebody else, break up the monotony.
Ask for a stage check
Yes.
with another instructor just to see how you're doing. Maybe you pick up another tip or two from this other instructor that maybe you don't want to switch to them and make this big drama fest because your other instructor is good. But no doubt you're going to learn something different from that other instructor, a different way of looking at the flare or a different way that they explain how to come in on approach or something that just clicks for you better.
We're all human. We all have our like little niches that we grab a hold of and that we excel at and we're comfortable teaching. So like for me, I love communication. So that's when people send students to me. But anyways, we can go on and on with this stuff. But I love that story. I'm really happy you shared it. And I'm also really happy that you are flying now.
And an aircraft owner. How freaking cool. You made it. You did it. Thank you for listening and submitting your story. If anyone else wants to, please submit to CaptainJohnDoe.com and we look forward to reading it. We will see you guys next Wednesday.
See you guys. Thanks for flying with Captain John Doe. If you have a story to share, visit CaptainJohnDoe.com and stay anonymous. New episodes every Wednesday. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell your favorite crew members.